Your cat finishes eating, or sometimes doesn't even finish, and immediately starts scratching at the floor around the bowl, pawing at the tile, the carpet, sometimes even the wall next to it, with the exact same motion they'd use to bury something in a litter box. Most owners assume the obvious explanation. The cat doesn't like the food. It's giving a bad review, so to speak, scratching in disgust before walking away. That explanation feels intuitive, but it's almost entirely wrong. What your cat is actually doing traces back to a survival instinct thousands of years older than the food in that bowl, and it has nothing to do with taste. 1. It's not a review, it's a cover-up. Start with what that scratching motion actually is. It's the exact same behavior a cat uses in a litter box, digging, then a sweeping, covering motion, aimed at concealing something. In the litter box, that something is waste. Around the food bowl, the instinct is being redirected at the food itself, or more specifically, at the scent the food is leaving behind. In the wild, a cat that makes a kill doesn't always finish it in one sitting. Leftover food sitting out in the open is a liability. It attracts scavengers, and worse, it attracts larger predators that could see a half-eaten meal as an invitation to a nearby, weakened cat. Covering the remains, or even just going through the motion of trying to, is an old instinct built around minimizing that risk, the same way a cat instinctively covers waste in a litter box rather than leaving it exposed for anything nearby to notice. Your cat isn't reviewing the food. They're instinctively trying to hide the evidence that food was ever there at all, even when there's no actual danger anywhere near your kitchen floor, no scavenger waiting outside, and no larger predator anywhere in the vicinity of your home. 2. The instinct doesn't know it's obsolete. This is the part that makes the behavior look strange to us. Indoor cats have no predators to hide from, no scavengers competing for their leftovers, and often no actual leftovers at all if they finish the whole bowl. And yet the scratching still happens, sometimes even more dramatically than it would need to in the wild. That's because instincts like this don't get updated based on whether they're still useful. They get triggered by the same internal cues they always have, regardless of whether the environment around the cat has changed. A cat scratching at a fully clean bowl on a tile floor with zero threats nearby is running the exact same program a wild ancestor would have run after finishing a kill in the open. The instinct doesn't check whether it's necessary. It just fires. This is similar to a lot of other cat behaviors that look pointless indoors but were once essential outdoors: kneading, stalking a toy, hiding after using the litter box. The environment changed far faster than the instinct did. 3. Scent marking adds a second layer. There's another piece worth understanding, one that has nothing to do with hiding food and everything to do with leaving something behind instead. Cats have scent glands in their paws, and scratching motions, whether on a scratching post, a piece of furniture, or the floor around a bowl, deposit a small amount of that scent. Some behaviorists believe the scratching around a food bowl isn't purely about concealment. It may also be a way of marking that specific spot as familiar, safe territory, especially in multi-cat households where food areas can carry more social tension than owners realize. This lines up with why cats often scratch near their bowl, even on surfaces that could never actually hide or bury anything, like tile or hardwood, where the covering motion accomplishes nothing physically, but still deposits scent with every pass. In that sense, the behavior might be doing two jobs at once: an old instinct to hide the remains of a meal, layered with a newer function of quietly claiming the space around it. 4. Why some cats do it constantly and others never do it at all. Not every cat performs this behavior, and the difference tends to come down to a mix of individual temperament and specific circumstances rather than food quality. Cats that free feed, with food available constantly, often show this behavior less, simply because there's rarely a distinct end of a meal moment triggering the instinct. Cats fed on a scheduled routine, with a clear start and finish to each meal, tend to display it more consistently, since the behavior is tied to the sense that a meal has concluded and something now needs to be dealt with. Multi-cat households also see this more often, since the instinct to obscure a food location can be amplified when there's a real, present reason to want to keep resources somewhat private from another cat in the house. A cat that's the only pet in a quiet, low-stress home may simply never feel the pull to bother, since there's no competition prompting that extra layer of caution around a finished meal. 5. The behavior that looks similar but means something different. It's worth separating this from a related but distinct behavior, a cat repeatedly trying to bury food they didn't finish, rather than food they already ate. This version often does carry a slightly different signal, sometimes linked to a cat's general food caution or a mild dislike of a particular texture or flavor. Even in that case, though, it's rarely a straightforward review the way people assume. It's closer to the cat treating an unfinished meal the same way it would treat any resource left exposed, something to be hidden until it's wanted again later, an old caching instinct rather than a clear verdict on taste. If you're trying to figure out whether your cat actually dislikes a food, watching how eagerly they approach it next time, rather than reading into the scratching itself, is the more reliable signal. A cat that scratches at leftovers but still runs straight to the same food the next day almost certainly wasn't giving a bad review at all. Your cat scratching around an empty or half-eaten bowl was never a comment on your choice of cat food. It's a survival behavior, one built for a world where leftover food meant risk, borrowed almost unchanged and pointed at a kitchen floor that's never once seen an actual predator. Layered underneath that is a second, quieter instinct sent marking through the paws, turning that same spot into something a little more familiar and their own. Neither of those things has anything to do with flavor, and both of them are a lot older than the bowl itself. So the next time your cat finishes eating and immediately starts pawing at the floor like they're trying to bury the evidence, know what's actually happening. Not a complaint. Just an old, deeply wired habit, still quietly doing its job long after the danger it was built for disappeared. Does your cat do this every meal, or only sometimes? Tell me in the comments. I'm curious how many of you have a bowl burier at home. If you made it this far, you clearly understand that cats are more than just pets, they're mysteries wrapped in fur. Want more stories like this? Tap the video on your screen to keep exploring the secret world of cats. And don't forget to subscribe, because in every cat, there's a story waiting to be told.